How's it going, guys? This is your boy Hazzed, and today we're going to be talking about Frost Dks in 7.3, where we're sitting at right now inside rated arenas, our rotation, our talent. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Right now in 7.3, Frost DKs are looking really good. Like, not extremely good, like overpowered good, but we're definitely in a comfortable position as far as rated arena gameplay is going on. Now, as we know, Blizzard has recently buffed up Frost DKs quite a bit, and what they've done is they've buffed up our consistent damage, our obliterate damage, our frost strike damage, a lot higher, and they've nerfed down, of course, our Breath of Sindragosa damage, the longevity we can get out of it, and they've really tried to stabilize the class with multiple builds instead of just being surrounded by one viable build. And I definitely agree that they've successfully done that with Frost DKs at the moment. Because at the moment, with the top 15 as far as classes, all the classes in World of Warcraft, Frost DKs in Rated Arena at the moment are sitting at rank 8. Now, the other question you guys are going to want to know, it's what you guys usually always want to know, is Frost or Unholy better in PvP at the moment? And right now, Frost DKs are sitting at 66.8% of Frost DK players inside of Rated Arena above 2K, and Unholy is sitting at about 30 something percent. So, as you can see, Frost DKs right now are performing better than Unholy. Sorry, Unholy guys. You guys were on top for a while. We're back on top now. As you know, it just flip flops consistently. We can't control it. There's nothing we can do. Anyway, so going over these talents at the moment, what kind of spec are we looking at? Because I've been really curious about what the most viable build for this is going to be, and like the discussions created, because a lot of the specs are so equal or better than each other in different small ways, and which one was going to end up being the best. And I kind of put my money on this spec, and the reason being is it kind of, at first look, it doesn't seem that great, but there's kind of a hidden burst behind it you don't really realize until setting into the spec and practicing a lot of the other stuff in 7.3, and of course doing the PvE, which right now even PvE is a consistent rotation coming off of Ice Cap and Obliteration. Right now this is the best PvE spec, which is very surprising. Well, not actually surprising at all. It was kind of surprising that it changed that much, but it wasn't surprising in the fact that I think in the other video I was talking about consistency DPS definitely seems to be stronger than the overall or front burst of a breath spec in PvE, and it definitely has ended up being that. So let's go ahead and talk about these PvP talents and the reason we're running these specific ones, even though they're different, of course, from the PvE stuff. Now, the reason we're running Icy Talons is basically it's going to mesh with Avalanche and Hungering Rune Weapon, since Hungering Rune Weapon now grants 20% extra haste for 12 seconds. So that's going to give you more attack power. It's going to let you proc your abilities faster. Of course, Icy Talons is going to give you 36% haste. It was 15% for each stack, but they nerfed it back down when they realized how strong it was. Just let that set in for a second. When they realized how strong it was, mixed in with the other abilities, it became quite powerful because you're going to get more attack speed, you're going to get more damage coming out, which in turn is going to give you more avalanche procs on the target you're hitting, and of course it's going to give you quite enough cleave damage on other targets. Now let's go ahead and talk about some honor talents. All right, away we're going at Gladiator's Medallion, obviously. Probably Reinforced Winter. Now, as for what you're fighting and whether or not you need to steal CC, you're going to be choosing between Anti-Magic Zone or Dark Sim, obviously. Probably ended up taking Narcotic Arroyo. I like that 8% extra magical damage with this spec. As far as the next talent, Frozen Center for arena-wise is definitely going to play out to be a lot better. If you want that 1v1 BG feel where you can control situations a little better, Death Chill is going to be better for that, being that a lot of classes have quite a bit of mobility at the moment. So coming down to the last talent, with this specific spec, I like using Overpowered Rune Weapon for the more consistent burst, being that it's mainly for generating a really fast hitting procking burst on a target, using Remorseless Winter, procking the attack speed, getting the icy to fall on your target. It's just like it's steamrolling. It's a giant snowball getting more snow on it. It's getting bigger the more damage, and then you just drop it on him all at once. Hit him with the Syndragos at the end of it, and just watch him go kabooey. It's pretty nice. Let's say you wanted to go for another PvP build, because as I said, the base stats for a Frost DK are really what's viable at the moment, not necessarily the overpowered talents or the fact that the breath spec is extremely powerful. Now, if you're really good at using breath, yeah, I can definitely see it being viable to use at the moment, but the burst window is so large that somebody running this spec is going to have a lot more chances to land a kill than somebody running the breath spec, obviously. Now, I have seen a lot of people also running the obliteration spec. Um, which generally they'll switch it up a little bit. They'll take obliteration, they'll take ice cap. Some people will go shattering strikes. Some people stay icy talons. But if you're gonna go like shattering strikes or icy talons with this spec, you're not gonna want to go overpowered rune weapon. You're gonna want to go tundra stalker, being that all of your damage is really gonna be based off of frost strikes, getting major frost strikes, and dumping it on the target repeatedly. Of course, maxing out runic power. It's almost like playing breath, but without the breath. Instead, you're using frost strikes instead. So it's kind of interesting the way people are doing these. Those are kind of seems to be the two generic ways that most high rated arena players are using this inside of arena. But let's go ahead and talk about some rotation with the spec here. So let's go ahead and discuss what's going on with the rotation of this spec. So as far as normal rotation outside of burst, it's pretty much the same as playing any other spec with one small change. It's when you use frost strikes. Because of 3-stack frost strikes, you're going to want to stagger a lot of your frost strikes to keep up the extra stack of attack speed to deal more damage to the target. And if you don't stagger them, you'll boost it up to 3 stacks for a little bit, and it'll fall off repeatedly, which is something I still have to get better at, because I haven't played a spec with Icy Talons, I think, since Emerald Nightmare, matter of fact, rating that when it first came out. So the normal rotation is like any other. If you want to pop Remorseless Winter up front, root the target, you can, or you can save your Remorseless Winter for when you're going to burst. It's really up to you, but let's say I'm going to include it right now in normal rotation. Throwing up my Remorseless Winter, throwing out some Howling Blast, just going in with the normal rotation, trying to stack up my Remorseless Winter as much as possible. And at this point is when I'm going to start throwing in some Frost Strikes. Now, you can save your Frost Strikes generally until it's going to fall off right there, about 1 second. When you see it go from 2 to 1 second, that's when you gotta hit it. Otherwise, you won't have enough global time to, of course, keep up the nice little haste stacks. And as soon as you got them haste stacks maxed out, and you're in a place where you got a nice Remorseless Winter stacked up, that's when you're gonna burst and drop all your damage. Make sure you keep, of course, up your frost strikes to keep that haste up, and then go into the normal rotation, obliterate, proccing those howling blast procs, and of course benefiting from the extra haste from the hungering rune weapon, which is going to allow you to keep up those frost strikes a lot easier to gain the extra haste. I know this is a big pill to swallow on this one. It's kind of a big one here, but the basic, yeah, we kind of explained it before. The basic ability of this burst is to generate a maximum amount of burst, trying to get everything procced at once, getting a full Gathering Storms procced, getting 3 stacks of Icy Talons, and then throwing up Pillar of Frost, trying to kind of coax your way into having maximized Gathering Storms and the haste before you throw out Pillar and then go into Hungering Rune Weapon, because it's going to stack it out. Maybe do it around 5 stacks for Remorseless. You'd probably maximize and elongate it a little farther out than you normally would if you popped it at 8 stacks, because instead of dealing with about 3-second cooldown left on your Remorseless Winter, you're going to have about, maybe 6 seconds left on your Remorseless Winter that's been extended. So there are some give and take with this. It does make your Remorseless Winter shorter, but in turn you're getting more burst from the Icy Talons and Avalanche spec. Now, the real strength of this spec comes from the consistency. Now, you're probably wondering, I could go Ice Cap and get more consistency and a little less burst, but as you know from the overpowered rune weapon, that would actually put it on a separate cooldown timer from Pillar of Frost and Hungering Rune Weapon, which both of those lining up at the same time is amazing consistency, amazing burst. It's just going to put an insane amount of pressure on the target. So let's say you don't have all the time in the world inside of Arena. You're either playing double DPS or you're inside of Battlegrounds fighting another DPS. So what we're going to do here is quick burst, basically like it's any other spec, but again, the only difference is you're going to be staggering your Frost Strikes instead of just waiting to use them as fillers later on in the rotation. So what we're going to do is approach this guy, of course. We're going to front burst, throw up our Amorphous Winter, dump and obliterates, gaining extra stacks, of course elongating it out a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and throw out our Hungering Rune Weapon, gain extra stacks, and just kind of go with the normal rotation, putting in our fillers for Icy Talons, making sure that doesn't fall off, and then throwing in obliterates, trying to get Howling Blast procs, which is going to maximize your single target and your AoE rotation. Now with this spec, when are you supposed to use Breath of Syndragoza? Generally you're going to want to watch your buffs for that. You want Unholy Strength up, and you want Pillar of Frost up. Anytime that both of those are up, you're going to do maximum amount of damage. You can either use it as a push to the finisher, or you can use your dragon as the finisher. It's completely up to you, and as we know, the damage on that has been buffed up a little bit in PvP, which it really needed to be. Thank you for that. Yeah, so it actually is fairly effective now, not just a completely like dead talent, obviously. But as far as where Frost DKs are at right now, it's pretty fun. Our healing is definitely the same as it was. Actually, technically, if you didn't know, our healing is slightly worse than it was because Death Strike was allowing us to heal slightly more than we should have been at certain times, almost like a little bug. So we were healing better than we were, even though our healing's terrible at the moment. I mean, survivability, what are we going to do? They gave us a lot of damage back. I'm pretty happy about that. So again, we're at the point where our damage literally is our survivability. We get kills on targets. It's going to go ahead and proc our death strikes, which we hit on another target, try to kill that target, use again that single death strike on another target, and that's going to be the way that we survive without a healer. So, I mean, it's really going to take quick execution. And for a while there in 7, in the last patch, it just, I wasn't enjoying Frost Dks very much. We had low CC, low healing, low damage. You couldn't even push a guy to a quick death, focusing him down to the point where you could get a death strike to lay on another class to stay alive. I mean, you would die way before that unless you had some kind of a healer on your team. And the fact that healers were so strong, it's not really the game that I like to play personally. I like that double DPS. I like that smooth kill. I like that 1v1 situation. Heck, I even like some of that solo queue. Give it to me. Savix, you know I got your back. You know I got your back on that. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video, these little updates as far as item level and gear goes. Of course, you guys know it scales off of item level, so off stats don't actually matter right now when it comes to PvP. But 30% haste in PvP is not bad, but boosted up to 50% with Empower Up, that's unheard of. That's unheard of. That's insane. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Let me know down in the comments below if you want some kind of PvE update, if you want some 1v1 stuff, if you want some BG stuff. Probably go ahead and do some of that stuff. So let me know. Until next time, this was your boy Hazzed.